Alright, today we are looking at chapter 2, and in chapter 2 the important thing that you have to know is quadratic equation. So before we start, we should actually know the difference between an expression and equation. So for example, if there are two things here, the first one here would be an expression. So why is this an expression and why is the second one an equation? It all comes down to the equal sign. So as you can see here, in the second equation we have an equal sign, so it's called an equation. But the first one would be an expression. And the second one is a linear equation. And the reason why it's linear is because x, there's no power to x, there's only x. So it's a linear equation. But if we look at a quadratic equation, this is an example of a quadratic equation. So why is this a quadratic equation? The reason is because of the square here. X has a square, so it's called a quadratic equation. If x is only x, there's no power to it, then it's a linear equation. So this is something that you have to remember. And of course, today we are focusing on quadratic equation. And generally, the form of a quadratic equation is in this general form. So this is very important, and I'll tell you why later in the video. But anyways, the main point of this topic actually is to find the roots of quadratic equation. So the roots of quadratic equation is otherwise known as x. So this is another important thing that you have to remember. So whenever they are asking you to find the roots, they are asking you to find x. And if x is given, you can substitute it as the roots of the equation. So it's something to remember there. And there are three ways to find the roots of a quadratic equation. And the first way that we have is factorization. The second way is by completing the square. And the third way is through the formula. So for the formula, you have to memorize the formula. There is no choice. So the formula is negative b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac. b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So you have to memorize this formula, but it shouldn't be too difficult once you start practicing. And something important to note when you are using this formula is that it has to be in the general form. So as I said, the general form is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So no matter how the equation is, you have to rearrange it so that it is in the general